This video will show you how to replace the electronic ignition switch on a Mitsubishi Lancer. This will be located along the driver's side of your steering column. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Now before we disassemble anything on the inside of the passenger compartment, let's start by disconnecting our negative battery terminal. That'll be done from inside of the engine compartment. Let's start disconnecting the negative battery terminal on our battery. You can see it on the outboard side here. To disconnect this, you're going to find that you have a 10mm mounting nut that we're going to loosen enough that we can dislodge the terminal end from the battery itself. We'll give that a wiggle, a quick inspection, set that aside so it's making no contact with the battery end. Now to do this, we're going to have to remove our upper and lower steering column covers, so we're looking down along the bottom area. Now down here we have our adjustment lever. We'll go ahead and pull on that, and we can adjust this upward. We're looking inside of this area next. There's two Phillips head screws. Go ahead and remove the pair. Now we're moving up from there towards where our ignition switch is going to be located. There's a small plastic panel here that needs to be dislodged. It has 4 locking tabs. This is fairly simple, just pry it out of place. I'm using a small pocket screwdriver. Just make your way in between the panels and gently pry. You can make your way along the side or up along the top, wherever's easiest for you. There we are. We can see our locking tabs there. We'll set that aside. Now we have a nice big area here. Continuing on, I'm going to be using a plastic trim tool. You could also use a small pocket screwdriver if necessary. We're going to start separating the upper and lower panels from each other. Now you can see where there is a slot that makes its way all the way across these. Once you have a small gap, you should be able to pry with your trim tool. Looks as though I already have a small gap here, so that's nice. Just make my way right in between there, and we'll start separating this. Now this does, of course, have a couple more locking tabs we're going to have to dislodge as we make our way forward. Now that we have this side separated, we're going to go over to the other side. We need to pop that free as well. Here we are. You can remove that upper panel. We'll just give that a quick inspection. Now that we have the upper panel off, we're going to start removing the lower panel. One thing I always like to do before doing that is I'm actually going to take hold of this plastic switch area, gently tug this out and away. It should pop out of place fairly easily. There we are. Now we'll take hold of this. We're going to start pulling it down and pulling it rearward to slide it out and away from the backside there. Now at this point, we have to make our way on the opposite side of this so we can gain access to our electronic ignition switch. Now as we look along the driver's side of the steering column, this is where we can see our electronic ignition switch. Now we do have an electrical connector. The locking tab for this is on the inboard side. For that, it might be easiest if you use an angled pick. Just go ahead and make your way underneath that area, gently press on the locking tab, and then you should be able to carefully pull this out of place. Get on it. There we are. Just a quick inspection of that electrical connector, of course. This looks fine, so we're going to set that wiring aside. Now we can move along to this area right here. This is where you can see a Phillips head mounting screw. If you find you have a hard time removing the screw due to this wiring harness, you could dislodge this wiring harness. Typically, you can just press it out of the way, use a small Phillips bit, turn this counterclockwise to remove it. Now there's minimal space in between this area for the Phillips head, so I'm just using a Phillips head bit with a small bit driver. Once I get this on here, we'll start turning it counterclockwise to remove it. Very minimal space here. Should be a very small screw here. We'll be careful not to lose this. That looks good. We'll set it aside. Now we should be able to take hold of this. We're going to give it a small wiggle and we should be able to pull it out towards the driver's side of the steering column. Just go ahead and slide it out and away. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installing any brand new part, of course, we're going to make sure we clean and inspect the mounting area. For this, I'm just using a clean rag. We're not trying to use any type of detergents. Just a quick wipe, confirming there's no miscellaneous debris. And now it's time for installation of our brand new electronic ignition switch. When we go to put this in position, we'll make sure we have it in the proper orientation so we can insert our mounting screw. Once that's tight, we're going to continue on with our electrical wiring harness. Just line it up. We'll press that in until we hear an audible click. Start on the Phillips head mounting screw and snug it up. There we are. Just double check to make sure that's secured in place. It should not move around. Now it's time for that electrical connector. You remember that the locking tab is going to be facing towards the steering column. Let's go ahead and get that in place and lock it in. Okay, we hear an audible click. We're just going to give that a little tug, confirming it's secured in place. Now it's time for our steering column covers. We'll start with the lower cover. Along the bottom of the steering column, we have our adjustment lever. We need to make sure that that's in the proper positioning. Just bring it up, slide this under. Now that I have the lower cover on there, I'm going to pull down on the steering column and lock it in position temporarily. Now it's time for the upper cover. Now up along the top, we're attempting to align both sides of these. We want to try to lock them together. Swing it in, line it up, press it in. This can take several attempts. Take your time on this. We want to make sure each one of our tabs is aligned. I can see along this side we are properly aligned. I'm going to, of course, set the other side, and we'll continue on along the bottom with our two mounting screws. Now it's time for the screws down along this area. Now I'm not going to fully tighten this until I have both of them started in. There we are, there's one. Now we're up near the ignition switch next. Let's put on our small plastic panel. As far as that plastic panel is concerned, as you remember, there's 4 locking tabs. We'll just line this up into the proper position and we'll press it in towards our steering column. Now after confirming that's secured, let's continue on to this piece here. We're just going to line this up, press it in, listen for an audible click. Now we're going to pause in the passenger compartment, make our way back out to the engine compartment so we can reattach our negative battery terminal. Prior to reinstalling that terminal end onto the battery, let's make sure we clean and inspect the terminal on the battery. Just using a battery brush, we'll give it a quick scuffing. That looks good. Now we're using a wire brush inside of this port directly on the terminal end. Make sure there's no buildup or miscellaneous corrosion, and we'll rest that along top of the battery. Press it down as far as possible and tighten your 10mm mounting nut until this is completely snug. Right there is where it bottoms out. Just a tiny bit further. Double check to make sure it's secured in place. Now that we're sure that's tight, let's make our way back into the passenger compartment. Let's go ahead and test the functionality of the ignition switch. Perfect. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.